evening, everyone. This is John Rollins, and it is Wednesday. It is time for our weekly S.T.R.I.V.E session. S.T.R.I.V.E, strategies to remain informed, strategies to remain victorious, strategies to remain empowered. And I always am grateful for the time that I'm able to spend a few minutes with you. I hope that you've had an exciting and an enjoyable Thanksgiving holiday. Your week has gotten off to a good start, and then you're already making preparations for Christmas. And then after that, New Year's, and it just keeps going. So I hope that things are always going to turn out. In fact, that's the topic for our time tonight. It always works out the way it's supposed to. It always works out the way that it is supposed to. Again, this is S.T.R.I.V.E. Strategies to remain informed, victorious, and empowered. And we're speaking to those of us who are in the body of Christ. Okay, now, so when I'm going to say that things always work out the way that they're supposed to, you may say, well, John, I don't know if I agree with that. I don't like how things are working out for me. You want me to believe that 2020 and everything that's happened this year, that it worked out the way it's supposed to? Well, my statement is it always works out the way that it's supposed to. It may not always work out the way that we thought it would. It may not always work out the way that we wanted it to, but it always works out the way that it's supposed to. And I'm going to see if I can explain that and hopefully get you to at least understand where I'm coming from. All right. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to take us to this scripture that I think for the believers that so many of us are familiar. And it comes from the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 28. And I have it in multiple translations, so I'm going to read it for you and it'll sound similar in many ways, but you hear a few differences. In the Message Bible, it says, He knows us far better than we know ourselves. This is, I think, 27 and 28 from the book of Romans. He knows us far better than we know ourselves. He knows our pregnant condition and keeps us present before God. That's why we can be so sure that every detail in our lives of love for God is worked into something good. That's how it's stated in the Message. In the English Standard Version, it says, and we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose. That's the English Standard Version. The Amplified says, and we know with great confidence that God, who is deeply concerned about us, causes all things to work together as a plan for good for those who love God, to those who are called according to his plan and purpose. And then the NIV says, and we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. All right. So that's the NIV. So now my statement is that it always works out the way that it's supposed to. And so what I've found and what I tell others is that everything in the universe operates by a set of laws, a set of systems, a set of rules. And so what we need to do, and if we are intending to control our outcomes as much as we can, is we should get to know what those laws are. What are the rules? What are the systems that are governing the universe? Many people consider the law of cause and effect to be the granddaddy of all laws. Some call it the law of sowing and reaping. I think Ralph Waldo Emerson called it the law of compensation. So it's called different things by different philosophers, different smart people. But there is a principle that every effect comes as a result of a cause or causes. And that when we can identify what the causes are that we're putting into a situation, we actually have a little more control over the effects. We determine what causes produce certain effects. then we can pretty much predict what the effects are going to be. Many of us will readily accept that things don't just happen. All right. We may not always understand why something happened, and we may not always like what happened, but I think most of us will agree that things don't just happen. Now, what I'm stating here is an opinion, and therefore is not my intent to try to infringe upon your reason, try to infringe upon your intellect. I'm simply sharing my observations, and you can share yours in the comments. Okay, but if we agree that there's a cause behind every effect, then we begin to exercise some control over the factors that contribute to the outcomes that we receive. Okay, if we can agree that there's a reason that everything happens, and things happen as a result of what happened prior to, then we can go and start changing some of the things that we do prior to the outcome that we get. We can influence outcomes. You say, John, could it be that easy? And my answer is most likely no. Could it be that simple? My answer is most likely yes. It's just that simple. Control the cause, you can control the effect. You can at least influence the effect heavily. You can heavily influence the effects. Now, remember, simple isn't always easy. All right? And you say, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. I find it entertaining when I hear people say things like this. I don't understand what happened. Or somebody says, I don't know why I failed that class. I can't explain how I got a nail in my tire. I don't know. I can't tell you why my clothes don't fit. I have no idea why they no longer want to be in a relationship with me. Where did all my money go? Where did that paycheck go? Why can't I save more money? All right, you get the idea. So naturally, or normally, our outcomes are in direct proportion to our input. Those of you who are computer people, you've heard this phrase before, I'm sure. Garbage in, garbage out. GIGO. Okay? Normally, our outcomes are in direct proportion to our input. Not always, but normally that is how things work. Now, we say, well, what do you mean by not always? Because there are other people who may contribute to an output that we didn't contribute, but it still allows the outcome. There was an input, it just didn't come from us. But normally our outcomes are in direct proportion to our input. Now, if you want to change what you're getting, I recommend that you change what you're doing. Okay, and again, remember, we're talking about strategies to remain informed, strategies to remain victorious, strategies to remain empowered. I'm sure most of us have heard the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting to get a different outcome. If you want to change your outcomes, you're going to have to change your input. We're going to have to change our input. Now, there are going to be some times when we get blindsided because there are people that we may deal with, and those individuals may choose to withhold information. They have the intent to deceive. They have the intent to try to manipulate the circumstances. Okay, but a person who has honest motives and intentions can very well be caught off guard when you have someone who is not being honest, who is not being upfront and forthright in what they're sharing. But even in those situations, an honest evaluation of the facts, the circumstance, the situation, usually reveal that all the signs pointed to the outcome that eventually surfaced. If you go back and you start looking at it and say, well, if I had paid attention to, if I had been watching, if I had listened to my instinct, if I had followed my gut, the outcome probably would have been different. Okay, sometimes what we do is we close our eyes, we close our hearts to what's taking place because we didn't want to see, or we didn't want to believe, we didn't want to accept what was going on or what we felt was going on. but that did not and that will not change the reality of what's happening. If you want a change to take place in your life, then what do you have to do? Okay, so I listed a few things here that I think will help us to make sure that things are working out not only the way they're supposed to, but we have more influence on what and how things come, the outcomes. All right. So one, we have to identify the desired change or the desired destination. All right. How many of you all have gotten tired of eating Thanksgiving leftovers? What did you do? You cooked something different. You changed that. I didn't want any more turkey. I don't want any more cranberry. Okay, I'm full of stuffing and dressing and well, I don't know if we ever get full of sweet potato pie. But anyway, yeah. So when we don't like what we're getting, then we do something different. Identify though where it is that we want to go, what it is that we want to go. The holidays are coming up. If you have time off for Christmas and you don't want to see any snow, then if you travel to Key West, you are most likely, or let's say it this way, if you want to see snow, if you have time off and you want to go and see snow for Christmas, but if you go to Key West, you're probably not going to get the outcome that you want. Okay, identify the outcome that you want. The second thing is to plan for what you want to happen. Prepare for what you want to happen. Predict what is most likely to happen. Many of us are experiencing undesirable outcomes because instead of setting ourselves in the direction that we want to go, we allow the wind to blow us wherever it chooses. It doesn't have to be that way. We can actually set ourselves to a desired destination. We can plan, we can prepare, we can predict where we're going to end up based on certain actions. Okay. The third thing is make a decision. Make a decision about what the next sequence of events will be for your life, for your situation, for your destination. Determine, predict, decide what needs to happen in order to get the outcome that we want. Get in the driver's seat, take the wheel, take control. All right. And then the last thing is execute. Execute the plan. Okay. We've already created the plan. We've already determined the potential outcomes. Okay. Now, we've made a decision to do something, then do it. Execute the plan. Follow the steps. Head in the direction you desire. Now, if you run into detours, if you're running the stop signs, or there are red lights on the way, I have good news for you. That means you're making progress. If you encounter resistance, then that means you're moving. Okay. If you're sitting still, you don't have to worry about the wind, unless, of course, the wind's not blowing outside. But if you're sitting still, in most situations where there is no wind, you don't have to worry about wind rushing into your face. When you're moving, that's when you start experiencing the wind. All right. So when we experience outcomes that are different than those we wanted, we expected, or we desired, we can rest assured that there's a reason behind it. We assess the situation, identify and change the cause, and we get things to work out the way they're supposed to. All right. Remember, there's a reason to everything we experience. There's a reason to everything we experience. There are causes behind every effect. Things always work out the way they're supposed to. It's a set of laws, okay? A set of systems, a set of rules. And when we learn them, we can control, we can influence, we can almost, in most cases, predict or determine what the outcome is going to be. Because things are going to work out. If you put sugar in your cornbread, you're going to get cornbread that you might want to eat. If you don't put any sugar in your cornbread, you probably aren't going to want to eat it. All right. And it doesn't have to be cake. I'm not talking about it, but I'm saying there's certain things that you put salt in the place where you should have put sugar. You shouldn't be surprised if you don't like the way it tastes. All right. But things work out based on our action. What did we do? Because what we did determines what we get. I heard someone say, and I want to say that it was Jack Canfield. I want to say it was Canfield. He says, I found the secret to success. The secret to success: do the things that work. Stop doing the things that don't work. Okay? It's just that simple. Do the things that work and then you will achieve the outcome that you want. If something's not working and you're not getting the results you want, stop doing that. Do something different. Okay? Do the things that work. Stop doing the things that don't work, because things always work out the way they're supposed to. All right. This is John with the S.T.R.I.V.E session. Strategies to remain informed, strategies to remain victorious, strategies to remain empowered. Okay. And here we are at the end of 7 days. Okay. We were here last Wednesday. We're here today. If you've not had someone in the last week to come in and to affirm your greatness, to tell you how wonderful you are, to remind you of your awesomeness, to let you know that without you being around, the world would not be the same, then I welcome the opportunity to remind you that today, tomorrow, and forever, you are important. All right. You all be blessed, and we hope to see you next week. Bye.